Welcome back to Upload Records Music News, where legends get loud, rumors get real, and rock history gets the deep dive it deserves. Alright, I'm Rockin' Ricky with Upload Records. Today's story is one of the most unbelievable, almost disaster in modern rock history. A moment when a single call from David Lee Roth nearly blew up one of the biggest supergroups of the 2000s, Velvet Revolver. Yep, that band. Remember them? Slash, Duff, Matt Sorum, and Stone Temple Pilots frontman Scott Weiland. A lineup that looked bulletproof on paper, but turned out to be held together with duct tape, adrenaline, and sheer willpower. Well, let's rewind the tape here and dive into a story that's equal parts hilarious, chaotic, and totally rock and roll, of course. By the 2000s, Velvet Revolver were fresh off the massive success of their debut record, Contraband. Grammy winners, radio staples, a tour that shook every arena it hit. Well, they had swagger, attitude, and the perfect mixture of Guns N' Roses and the grit of Scott Weiland's tortured charisma. That was a great band. Pretty good band, actually. But beneath the surface, they were already fighting the fires that would eventually burn the band down. With substance abuse issues, personality clashes, and an uneasy balance between Slash's discipline and Weiland's vitality. The whole thing was brilliant, actually, and unstable at the same time. And into this fragile ecosystem walked in David Lee Roth. At the time, the world was buzzing about Van Halen. They were about to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Everybody was wondering, would Dave show up? Would Sammy Hagar show up? Would Van Halen perform live with David Lee Roth? Would they somehow perform together and pull it through? Fans were split. The band was split, obviously. Both frontmen were circling each other like fighters. Well, Roth being Roth, unpredictable. One minute he was on board, and the next he wasn't. Meanwhile, Sammy Hagar was doing what Sammy does, just taking it easy and laughing off the whole circus, I guess. Now picture this. Slash is at home, and his phone rings. He picks up, and on the other end is David Lee Roth. No warning, nothing. Just pure Diamond Dave energy in full force. Essentially, Roth tells Slash, if you guys play Jump, I'll show up at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and perform with you guys. Just like that, Roth wanted Velvet Revolver, the band known for gritty riffs and dark alternative rock, to play Jump, the band's most keyboard-driven song of all time. And if they did, he'd come down and join them. So Slash, being polite and probably a little confused, hears them out. But the moment Scott Weiland gets wind of this, everything detonates. Weiland didn't just disapprove. He issued a threat so blunt that this story, I can't believe, is just coming out. According to Sammy Hagar, retelling, Weiland told Slash, I'll quit the band if you let that mother effer anywhere near the stage. Wow. Not, I don't like it. Not, maybe a good idea, maybe not. No. Quit the band. Weiland already felt the pressure of filling the shoes of Guns N' Roses' most iconic era. Filling Axl Rose's shoes. He didn't want any legendary frontman swooping in and shifting the spotlight. And Roth, with his history and ego, unpredictability, he was a walking spotlight. So, Velvet Revolver, barely hanging on together as it was, one cameo from Roth could have blown the entire project apart. I mean, which it did anyway, eventually. Alright, so meanwhile, Sammy Hagar, who had no idea what was happening, called Slash with a totally different vibe and just friendly suggested, hey Slash, What if Mikey and I join you guys on the stage? Michael Anthony on bass, Sammy Hagar on vocals? That would have been a great rock moment. Except by that point, Velvet Revolver were done entertaining any guests whatsoever. Doors locked. No entry. Roth's call had already set off alarms. Weiland made it clear the band would implode before letting Roth on stage. I don't know, he must have had something with Roth that, we don't know about. There's got to be more to this story. So, as Hagar later put it, by the time I called Slash, there was no way that was happening. Yeah, so this whole situation, in hindsight, is almost comical. Roth, he wasn't trying to break anything up. He just did what he always did. Walk into a room with confidence, charm, chaos, and a request that made perfect sense to him. It makes sense to me too, actually. I'm sure the fans would have loved it. Roth at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But for Velvet Revolver, no. It hit exactly at the wrong moment. Now, the band was already stretched thin. Weiland's personal struggles were escalating. Slash was holding the group together while keeping himself sober. Relationships inside Velvet Revolver were delicate. Letting Roth, an unpredictable force in nature, join them on stage would have been like tossing a hand grenade into a studio full of fireworks, probably. So the band shut it down. No Roth, no Hagar, no Michael Anthony, and definitely no Jump. Just Velvet Revolver, trying to stay intact, playing Ain't Talking About Love. Personally, I would have loved to seen Hagar Hagar too, or Roth up there with Velvet Revolver, even if it was playing Jump. That would have been classic. Of course, the band didn't last long anyway. They released, one more album, Libertad, in 2007, I believe, 2007. And while it had strong moments, it never topped the first album and couldn't stop the inevitable. Weiland left in 2008. 2008. Well, I keep saying 2008. Yeah, 2008. They hoped for unions, but that fizzled out. And in 2015, the world lost Scott Weiland far too soon. Yeah. Well, looking back, the Roth incident is a tiny footnote in a long, turbulent history, but it's such a perfectly insane snapshot of rock culture that it feels almost mythical now, actually. I can't even believe that Roth and the Van Halen brothers didn't show up. It's just something. Well, it's a reminder that any supergroup made of Titans can be shaken off by one phone call from a guy who lives in his own universe of showmanship. Imagine the headline, if that would have happened. Velvet Revolver breaks up after fight with David Lee Roth. Yeah, not drugs, not creative tensions, not touring exhaustion, just Jump. Just Roth being Roth. Rock and roll really makes sense, I guess, but damn, it sure does make great stories, doesn't it? All right, this has been Upload Records Music News. I'm Rockin' Ricky. If you enjoyed this deep dive into this rock history and this very interesting story, hit like, subscribe, drop me a comment. Tell me what other chaotic saga stories you like and what you would like me to cover next. Until next time, keep it loud and messy, keep the legends alive, and happy holidays to everyone.